guys, welcome back. So if you saw my farmers market video, you have known that I wound up selling one of my items, and my wife wound up beating me out of the first day. But what the first item I sold was the chew can holder with a lid with a flap here. And of course I'm needing to restock. I know it's only just one, but I still need to go ahead and get it updated. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I make these up, basing it off of the templates that I've made up specifically for the chew can carriers, and show you guys how I put them together. And I will end up doing a different treating. I'm actually going to be treating everything except re-treating everything except for the koozies. I'm going to be doing a wax and linseed oil mix, and it's something I've picked up just recently and started using, and I've found out that it makes these items very waterproof, a lot better than what I've been doing. So I'm going to, and it also makes the stuff a lot darker. You see on this koozie, this is what I made for myself. You see how dark it is compared to my other treatments. It does, this other treatment does wind up making it dark, I think, anyways. I mean, it does, it does, but it takes time. This will wind up making it darker right off the bat. And one thing I've noticed this last Saturday, that a lot of people were a lot more interested in the darker leather than this natural tan of the vegan tan leather that I use. So I'm going to end up going ahead and treating all of it, and I'll show you that treatment. It's very simple. It's just a matter of getting the right combination of the wax to linseed oil mixture, getting that set. From what I've gathered in my research, that you want to do somewhere between a 4-to-1 to 6-to-1 mixture, but 5-to-1 is usually, what I found out, is usually the better option, because it with the 6-to-1 wax to linseed oil, favoring 6-part wax to 1-part linseed oil, however you measure it out. With that heavier wax, it winds up leaving a lot of residue on the outside of the leather, and it almost as if it doesn't soak in correctly. So a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 usually, from what I've found, works a lot better than a 6-to-1. So what I've got, I think, is it's either a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1. I can't remember right off. So let's go ahead and get on to it, and I'll show you guys how this is all done up and how I utilize my stuff. So stick around and enjoy. Alright, so used to, whenever I'd make these, I had this piece here, the flap, extended all the way from side to side, and I'd put a rivet through each side, each corner here, and do a full loop on the stitch as I went through. And over time, after doing so many of these, I got really tired of doing that. So what I decided to go ahead and do is just simply make this completely independent from this stitch line here. And so I went ahead and, as you saw on my template, I went in and I cut these corners out and tapered them out to alleviate that. And now I can just simply stitch this on, and then come back and stitch all of this in just one constant loop. And it makes it a lot easier because I can start with this side and then continue on. We'll fold this over, continue on, and then pull this over and stitch it on as well. And so it was just one of the things I discovered that would make this so much easier for me to put these together, and winding up saving a lot of time on doing this. And another thing is I go ahead and put the base of the snap in before I stitch it up, because if you put the base in after you stitch it, you're gonna have a hard time with getting this set up, the back side set up on an anvil, to be able to compress that stem. And that's with this already folded over and this already suspended because of the size. So because I can get this set up on here, and then I can accommodate for this, the location of this base with the flap. So it's not that big of a deal. So that was another key thing I learned. So now I just gotta stitch this all together and wet form it and go from there. Alright, so at this point, I've got it wet formed and set up to where the wet form I usually do off the camera because I have to take it to the sink. And the key thing with this is, or that I have found anyways, to help keep it retain the shape retained, is using hot water. I'll go ahead and put the item in and use hot water, and then allow it to cool after that. And it will in fact retain its shape really well. I found out over the last few years that using cold water in comparison to hot water, that the cold water does not help keep it retained as well, and that also it won't form, the leather won't form real well with cold water compared to hot water. I don't mean boiling hot water, I mean just hot enough right out of the tap. So it's whatever that temperature set to. And it keeps this thing in shape very well. So, figured I mentioned that. Now I just gotta go ahead and try to burnish these edges real quick, like so. Let's get to it. Alright, so this is the mixture I was talking about with being wax and linseed oil. I will be dumping that one in there, but it ain't going to be the only one I'll be dumping in. I got a whole tote with the stuff to dump. So that way it's not completely wasted. And oh well, just simply heating this up. So that way I have more than one to do. So I really hate doing this up just for one item. So I'll show you the process here in a bit once this is melted. So give me a minute. Alright, so it got pretty well melted now. And you definitely need to mix it up even after even though you may do it every single time, you still want to mix it up from what I understand. I've only done this a few times in the past, but one thing I was for certain, you always want to mix it up. So I'm actually going to use some tongs this time for a little bit easier grabbing. From what I understand, you want to have this in there for about 15 seconds, fully submerged. About 15 seconds. Come out like that. And you'll want to kind of rub it off a little bit. Kind of dry it off. Not really dry it off, but you get the idea. To just get the excess off of it. And let it sit and dry overnight. And come tomorrow, it'll be all but completely waterproof. So now I got a whole tote full of items to do it. So after I get done with this, I'll probably end up doing a video verse and go from there. Alright, so just to show you guys everything that I have set up for the farmer's market. Everything that I've just waxed tonight alone. And, well, almost everything here is for the farmer's market. Everything here except for that. That was actually for one of my rifles, shotgun rifle. And all this other stuff that's strictly going to be for that other, for one of mine and for display. Now, one of the things I did want to touch on, a few things with these, is that one, it obviously changes the color, as you can see. And another thing is that linseed oil, I believe it's the linseed oil, it acts like a hardener. And well, either the linseed oil or the wax, I can't remember which one it was, but it acts like a hardener. Now, this here, just from a little bit of time that it was here, blah. From a little bit of time that it was sitting here chilling out, it's already moderately stiffened up a little bit. And you can definitely tell up here. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it sounds a little bit more hard. So what this does is it fully waterproofs it, and pretty much fully waterproofs it, changes the color of it, makes it a little bit more of a desirable color, and it's pretty simple setup, but it certainly takes a while to go ahead and run through so many of the things I have, like what I have here. It certainly takes a little while. But yes, Videoverse. Now let me get set up here because I got all this stuff is cooling down, so it's going to take me a minute. Alright, so this Videoverse is we're still back in James, and it's chapters 4, 1 through 12. And it says, "What is the source of wars and fights among you? Don't they come from your passions that wage war within you? You desire and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight and wage war. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? So whoever wants to be the friend of the world becomes the enemy of God. Or do you think it's without reason that the Scripture says the Spirit He made to dwell in us envies intensely? But He gives greater grace. Therefore He says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore submit to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be miserable, and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will exalt you. Don't criticize one another, brothers and sisters. Anyone who defames or judges a fellow believer defames and judges the law. If you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver and judge, who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor?" And that is James chapter 4, verses 1 through 12. And I'll see you guys in the next one.